The letter was waiting for me in the mailbox the morning after my sister's funeral. There was no return address, no stamp, and only 4 words written across the front in handwriting I recognized immediately. You deserve to know, my sister, Anna, had been dead for less than 24 hours. I stood at the mailbox with the envelope in my hand, staring at her handwriting until the world around me seemed to disappear. Anna had always written the same way. Small, neat letters. Every word carefully spaced. Even grocery lists looked like they belonged in a notebook. I turned the envelope over. Nothing. I opened it with my finger. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Daniel, if you're reading this, then I didn't get the chance to tell you myself. Please go to Mom's house. Look behind the mirror in the upstairs bedroom. And whatever you find, don't let Dad know. I read the last sentence twice. Then I looked toward my house. My father had been dead for 9 years. I almost laughed. It was the kind of laugh that comes when something is so strange your mind doesn't know how else to react. Anna knew Dad was dead. She had been standing beside me at his funeral. So why had she written those words? I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. I didn't go to Mom's house that morning. I told myself I needed time. The truth was, I was afraid. Anna's funeral had been the previous afternoon. She had died unexpectedly after a short illness. She was 46. Too young. She had never married. She lived alone in a small apartment about 20 minutes from me. We spoke almost every day. Sometimes for an hour. Sometimes for only 5 minutes. She was the person I called when I needed advice. The person who remembered every birthday. The person who knew exactly how I liked my coffee. Losing her felt like losing the last person who remembered the family the way I did. Our mother had died 12 years earlier. Our father followed 3 years after that. After Mom died, Anna became the one who kept everything. Photographs. Old letters. Christmas decorations. My father's watch. Our mother's jewelry. She hated throwing anything away. I used to tease her about it. You're turning the apartment into a museum. She would smile. Someone has to remember. Now there was no one left to ask what she meant. Except for the letter. That evening, I drove to my mother's old house. The property had been empty since my father died. Anna and I had talked about selling it many times, but she always found a reason to postpone it. Not yet, she would say. Why? I'll tell you someday. I never asked again. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch needed paint. The front garden was overgrown. A wind chime still hung beside the door, even though it hadn't moved in years. I unlocked the front door. The smell hit me immediately. Old wood. Dust. And something faintly familiar. I stood in the hallway and remembered being 10 years old, racing Anna up the stairs. She always won. I walked upstairs. My mother's bedroom was at the end of the hall. The mirror was still there. A large wooden frame with a crack near the bottom. I lifted it carefully. Nothing. I checked behind it. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed the frame was slightly loose. I pulled it away from the wall. A small envelope had been taped behind it. My name was written on the front. Daniel. I sat on the floor. My hands were trembling. I opened it. Inside was an old photograph. It showed my mother standing outside the house. She was holding a baby. I recognized myself immediately. But there was another child standing beside her. A little girl. Anna. That wasn't strange. What was strange was the date written on the back. March 1980, I was born in 1982. I stared at the photograph. The numbers couldn't be right. Unless there was something about my family I had never known. Under the photograph was another note. Anna was supposed to tell you. I felt a chill. I read the next line. She was afraid you would hate her. I couldn't understand. Why would I hate Anna? I picked up another photograph. This one showed my mother holding Anna. On the back was a different date. 1978, Anna had always told me she was born in 1979. I suddenly realized something. My sister had lied about her age. But why? I searched through the drawer beneath the mirror. Inside were old documents. Birth certificates. Insurance papers. Marriage records. I found my mother's original birth certificate. Then Anna's. I stared at it. Her name wasn't Anna Miller. It was Anna Carter. I sat back. Our mother's name was Elizabeth Miller. Our father's name was John Miller. So why did Anna have a different last name on her birth certificate? Then I found another document. An adoption record. I read it once. Then again. Anna had been adopted by my parents. I couldn't breathe. My entire childhood suddenly felt like a story with missing pages. Anna wasn't my biological sister. She had known. And apparently, she had spent her entire life carrying that secret. I found another letter. This one was much older. The handwriting belonged to my mother. Daniel, one day, you may discover that Anna isn't your sister by blood. But she is your sister by every measure that matters. Tears filled my eyes. Why hadn't anyone told me? I continued reading. We adopted Anna because her parents couldn't care for her. Her biological father was dangerous. We promised never to reveal his identity unless it became necessary. I stopped. Dangerous? I looked at the next page. He found us once. Your father made sure he never found us again. My heart began beating faster. I thought about my father. The man I remembered as strict but loving. The man who never allowed strangers inside the house. The man who always checked the locks before going to bed. I had assumed it was just one of his habits. Maybe it wasn't. The final paragraph was partly torn. Only a few words remained. If he ever comes back, protect Daniel. Anna knows where the evidence is. I stared at the paper. Anna knew where the evidence was. Evidence of what? I searched the room again. Inside my mother's old wardrobe, I found a small metal box. It was locked. There was no key. Then I remembered Anna's letter. Look behind the mirror, maybe the key was somewhere else. I checked every drawer. Nothing. Then I noticed the back of the mirror frame. There was a tiny indentation. I pressed it. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a key. I unlocked the metal box. There were newspaper clippings. Court documents. Photographs. And a cassette tape. The newspaper headline read, "Local businessman disappears after witness testimony." The man's name was Thomas Carter. Anna's biological father. I picked up the cassette. There was a date written on it. 1999, I found an old tape player in the downstairs cabinet. It still worked. I pressed play. Static filled the room. Then I heard my father's voice. I hadn't heard it in 9 years. John? Another man's voice answered. My father's voice sounded frightened. You can't come back. The other man laughed. She isn't your daughter. My father said something I couldn't understand. Then Thomas Carter spoke again. Give me my daughter, and I'll disappear. My father's voice became firm. You'll never get near her. The recording ended. I sat completely still. Anna's biological father had wanted her back. My father had refused. But why had he been afraid? I played the tape again. This time, I heard something in the background. A child crying. Then my father's voice. "Take Daniel upstairs." I froze. I had been there. I had been a child in that house. My parents had been protecting both of us. Then the phone in my pocket rang. It was Anna's number. I stared at the screen. She had been dead since yesterday. The phone rang again. I answered. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then a man's voice whispered, "Your sister should have left the past alone." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" The man ignored my question. "You found the box." I looked toward the metal box. "How do you know?" "Because Anna told me where she hid it." I couldn't breathe. "Who are you?" A pause. Then he said, "My name is Thomas." The line went dead. I stood in my mother's bedroom, staring at the phone. Anna's biological father was supposed to be gone. My parents had spent years protecting us from him. And now, one day after my sister's funeral, he had called me. Then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There was a second envelope inside the metal box. I opened it. Anna had written only one sentence: "Daniel, if Thomas ever contacts you, do not believe him when he tells you why he came back." I looked at the cassette player. Then at the old photographs. For the first time, I understood why Anna had been afraid to tell me the truth. She hadn't been protecting herself. She had been protecting me. And whatever happened 27 years ago had never really ended. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my mother's bedroom until the sky outside began turning gray, replaying Thomas's voice in my head. "Your sister should have left the past alone." I kept wondering what he meant. Anna had spent years protecting a secret I hadn't even known existed. Now she was dead. And the man at the center of that secret had somehow found me. I called the number that had appeared on my phone. It was disconnected. I tried again. Nothing. I considered calling the police, but I didn't know what I could tell them. A dead sister's phone had called me. A man claiming to be her biological father had threatened me. There was an old cassette recording of my father talking to the same man almost 30 years ago. It sounded unbelievable. But the evidence was sitting in front of me. At 7 in the morning, I called Detective Harris, the officer who had handled Anna's death. He came to the house an hour later. I showed him everything. The photographs. The adoption papers. The letters. The cassette. He listened without interrupting. When the recording ended, he looked at me. "Did Anna ever mention Thomas Carter?" "Never." "Did you know his name?" "No." He examined the adoption papers carefully. "Where did you find these?" "Behind the mirror." He looked at me. "Your sister knew you would find them." "I think so." "What else did she leave?" I handed him the final note. He read it twice. "Daniel, I need to ask you something." "What?" "Did Anna's death seem unusual to you?" My stomach tightened. "What are you saying?" "Her medical report says natural causes." "She was sick." "Yes." "But?" He hesitated. There were traces of a medication in her system that weren't listed in her prescription history. I stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the amount wasn't enough to prove anything." "Could someone have given it to her?" "Possibly." The room suddenly felt colder. "Do you think Anna was murdered?" "I don't know." "But you think it's possible?" He nodded. That was all I needed to hear. Anna hadn't simply died. Someone might have made sure she couldn't tell me the truth. Detective Harris took copies of the documents. "Before leaving," he said, "don't meet Thomas alone." I wasn't planning to. "Good." After he left, I sat at the kitchen table. I looked at the old photograph of Anna. She was smiling. I remembered her at 12, stealing cookies from the kitchen. At 17, borrowing my car without asking. At 25, sitting beside me at our father's funeral. She had always been there. And now I was realizing how much she had carried without telling me. That afternoon, I received another message. This time it wasn't from Anna's number. It was from an unknown number. You want the truth? Come to the old train station at 6. Come alone, ****. I showed Detective Harris. He told me not to go. I agreed. Then, at 5:30, I changed my mind. I couldn't explain why. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted to hear the truth from Thomas himself. Maybe some part of me still believed that if I understood what happened, Anna's death would finally make sense. I drove to the train station. I didn't go alone. Detective Harris followed in an unmarked car. I waited near the old platform. At exactly 6, a man stepped out from behind a brick building. He was older than I expected. Gray hair. Thin face. Dark coat. He looked tired rather than dangerous. He stopped several feet away. Daniel. How do you know my name? I've known about you since you were a child. You're Thomas? Yes. I wanted to hate him. Instead, I felt confused. You called me after my sister died. I did. You threatened me. No, you said she should have left the past alone. I was warning you. About what? He looked toward the empty tracks. About the people who killed her. My heart stopped. You know Anna was murdered? I suspected. Who did it? He looked at me. Your father. I stepped back. My father died 9 years ago. I know. Then how could he kill her? He didn't. Thomas looked down. Not directly. I didn't understand. Explain. Your father spent his life protecting Anna from me. That doesn't make sense. It will. Thomas took an envelope from his coat. Your mother and father adopted Anna after her biological mother died. I nodded. I already know. What you don't know is why. He handed me the envelope. Her mother wasn't simply unable to care for her. I opened it. Inside was an old police report. The report described a fire at a small apartment building. 1 person died. A woman named Sarah Carter. Anna's biological mother. I looked at Thomas. She was my wife. He continued. She had discovered that I was involved with people who were stealing money through a construction company. I stared at him. I wasn't innocent, he said. I made terrible choices. Then why did you want Anna? Because she was my daughter. That's not enough. No, he looked ashamed. I wanted her because she was the only good thing left in my life. I didn't know what to say. Thomas continued. Your father found out that people were looking for the records Sarah had hidden. What records? Financial records. The same ones in the box. Yes. Then why didn't my father destroy them? Because he wanted evidence. Against you? Against everyone. I thought about the photographs and documents. So my father wasn't protecting Anna from you? He was protecting her from the people I had worked with. I remembered the cassette. My father's voice had sounded afraid. You said my father killed Anna. I said he was responsible. How? Thomas looked directly at me. Your father kept the evidence hidden for 20 years. And? Anna found it. I felt a chill. When? Several months before she died. I remembered Anna becoming distant. Her unanswered calls. The nights when she said she was busy. The way she once told me, if I ever ask you to trust me, don't ask why. She had known. Thomas continued. She contacted me. I stared at him. She contacted you? Yes. Why? She wanted to know what happened to her mother. What did you tell her? The truth. What truth? That her mother was killed because of the evidence. I felt sick. Who killed her? Thomas didn't answer. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Detective Harris appeared. Thomas Carter. Thomas raised his hands. I expected you. Harris approached. We need to talk. Thomas nodded. But before he could say anything else, a black car sped into the parking lot. The driver threw something from the window. It landed near us. A small black bag. Harris immediately moved me behind him. Stay back. The car disappeared down the road. Thomas looked at the bag. It's starting again. Harris opened it carefully. Inside was a stack of photographs. Every photograph showed Anna. Leaving work. Entering her apartment. Walking with me. And one showed her standing outside my mother's house. On the back of that photograph was a message, "The brother is next." I felt my stomach drop. Harris looked at me. You're coming with me. That night, police searched my house. They found no one. But they discovered something disturbing. Someone had entered while I was at the train station. Nothing had been stolen. The only thing missing was the old cassette tape. Someone wanted the recording. The next morning, Detective Harris called. We found the car. Who was driving? A man named Michael Carter. Who is he? Thomas answered from across the room. My son. I stared at him. Your son? Yes. I suddenly understood. Anna wasn't the only person Thomas had kept secret. There was another child. Michael had been working with the people who wanted the evidence destroyed. And he had been watching Anna. Harris told me they were searching for him. Then he handed me a new envelope. We found this in Anna's apartment. It contained a final letter. My hands shook as I opened it. Daniel, if you're reading this, then you finally know enough to understand why I stayed silent. I was never ashamed of being adopted. Mom and Dad were my parents. You were my brother. Nothing could change that. But I discovered something about our family that frightened me. Dad kept evidence that could expose the people responsible for Mom's death. He thought keeping it hidden would protect us. He was wrong. They never stopped looking. If anything happens to me, give the evidence to Detective Harris. Don't trust Michael. And Daniel, don't blame Dad. He spent his entire life trying to protect us. I couldn't finish reading. I cried. Not because I had discovered Anna wasn't my biological sister. But because I realized it didn't matter. She was my sister. She always had been. Weeks later, Michael was arrested. The evidence from my mother's house was enough to reopen the old investigation. Several people connected to the financial scheme were charged. Thomas cooperated with investigators and admitted his own role. He didn't try to excuse what he had done. He simply told the truth. I never forgave him completely. Maybe I never will. But I stopped hating him. Because Anna had wanted the truth, not revenge. Months later, I returned to my mother's house. The mirror was still upstairs. The same mirror that had hidden Anna's letter for 20 years. I stood in front of it for a long time. Then I smiled through my tears. I finally understood why Anna had written, "You deserve to know." She wasn't giving me a secret. She was giving me the chance to understand her. And in the end, that was what mattered most. Anna had entered my life as a little girl I never questioned. She left it as the person who had spent years protecting me from a past I didn't even know existed. Blood had nothing to do with it. She was my sister because she chose to be. And I was her brother because, no matter what the truth revealed, I always would be. I kept her final letter in the same drawer where I keep old photographs of our childhood. Sometimes I still read it. Not because I need answers anymore, but because I don't want to forget her voice. My sister spent 20 years hiding a truth. In the end, she didn't hide it forever. She left me a way to find it. And somehow, that was her final gift to me.